This time on episode 462 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we talk the 1992 series X-Men the Animated Series, episodes 9 and 10, Descent and Graduation Day, as presented on Disney+. We talk weekly Marvel news, including the Marvel's bumps its release date back to late 2023, Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has a new trailer, Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur releases its first episode online for free, and how Kang became Marvel's next supervillain, and why Phase 4 sets it all up.
I'm SP from the GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is part of the GonnaGeek.com network. Just like the show you're checking out now, shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other amazing geek shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You have been granted clearance by director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. director.
And now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Lauren.
I'm Agent Michelle.
I'm Agent Chris.
And I'm producer of the show, Director SP. Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe fan show discussing the Marvel Cinematic and comic book universes as told on screen by Marvel Studios. The show is recorded on Saturday, February 25th, 2023, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios, and broadcast we're not sure where wide. Come and join our live chat as we record. And if you didn't already catch on to it, we like talking about the Marvels.
Because of epic facial hair.
If you'd like to talk to us about epic facial hair, you can find us at our website, legendsofshield.com.
If you want to taunt us about how you have epic facial hair and we don't, you can leave us a voicemail at 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
You can talk to us about your favorite beard styles on Twitter at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You can see Director SP and Agent Chris's epic facial hair on YouTube at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
If you want a warning about when SP's epic facial hair is going to run away for the season, you can join up our Discord server at GonnaGeek.com/Discord.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network, which has plenty of beards.
And first of all, we need to welcome back to the show Lauren, or as we've now known to call her, Agent Fumbles.
It was always Fumbles.
Welcome back.
I am glad to be back.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we know that things have been afoot in where you are at on the foot of the Rockies.
Yeah, so we had like a 50-degree temperature drop a couple of days ago, and I actually ended up with like a slight sinus infection because of it. But as you can hear, I am sounding better and feeling better.
Didn't parts of Colorado get like 2 or 3 feet of snow dumped at them?
Yeah, luckily we were not one of them. We actually only got a little bit of snow this time, which is good because cleaning up the driveway and sidewalks is a pain, I am discovering.
Yeah, welcome to our world in the north.
Yeah, remember, I'm from Texas. I was born in South Texas. All of this is very weird to me, but not necessarily bad weird.
The one thing that I remember moving from Minnesota to Colorado is in Minnesota, you had to do the same thing. You had to blow the driveway. You had to sweep off the sidewalks, put salt down, whatever, try to stay safe because you didn't want the ice down there. In Colorado, kind of the same thing, although it tends to all melt off in a day.
Yeah, which is pretty cool, except that we ended up, anyway, I'll talk about it later, but we still have a lot of snow in our yard that has not melted off yet. Turns out that our house doesn't get a lot of sun.
Well, I do know, it being in Colorado, anywhere along the I-25 corridor, you have the mountains there, and in the winter, it gets dark around 3 p.m., or at least the sun goes down about 3 p.m.
Yeah, it was so weird. It would be like 4:30, and I'm like, I want to go to bed.
Exactly. And as alluded, unfortunately, SP's beard only has, I don't know, about a month left. April 1st is about the time that it comes off, although this year might be earlier because pollen is incredibly high right now, and it's really messing with my sinuses as well. Well, we've been leading up to this, I want to say, for like a year. I didn't go back and check and see when our first episode was on X-Men the Animated Series, but we've been watching this whole thing for quite some time now, and we finally reached the end. You guys ready to talk about the finale of X-Men the Animated Series from 1992 through 1997?
Very.
Mm-hmm. Do, 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 do.
Bow, bow.
Previously on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Because of wearing bright colors for covert mission.
You only got one more left, and that is punching Nazis.
Oh, I can get used to this.
They try to do too much.
But it looked like a frickin', I don't know, Goomba.
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
What? I know you don't go into people's minds and everything, but
I reckon I could do better.
what the F?
Not now. No. Nope. I'm out. I can't do this.
It's kind of a no-brainer. You have to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you have to give up anything because I don't know what happens in the last 2 episodes. Secret government thing, a shadow government, and then there was a shadow government within a shadow government, and then a shadow government within a shadow government within the shadow government.
No, they don't even bother to be in the shadows now.
Are you going to get Chris voicing Captain America in the future? I don't know.
I have no reason to think that they would come in and instantly connect to that.
Well, all I know is you can't go wrong with Tara Strong.
And that previously on was brought to you by Agent Chris. It has been a fantastic 5 seasons with your previously ons.
This one was so hard to put together because I knew that this was it.
Yeah, such an interesting way to make it look like we had a conversation that we kind of sort of had in SP. I went back and looked, and our first episode about X-Men 92 was January 27, 2022. Started with episode 410.
Oh, so it's about 13 months, a year and 1 month.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been a fantastic year, and we haven't been covering it consistently. We've been going in and out with all the other Disney series and movies and that sort of stuff, which are going to get farther and farther disparate and fewer and farther between. So we'll talk about that later. But thank you very much, Chris, for the previously on. That was entertaining. You definitely had a lot of enthusiasm for it. I still think my favorite one is the Time Loops one.
Time Loops is a good one, though.
The Time Loops one is epic.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the actual episodes. We're talking about the penultimate and finale episodes of X-Men the Animated Series. This is season 5, episodes 9 and 10, as shown on Disney Plus right now. They first premiered on Fox Kids Descent, which is now season 5, episode 9, on Saturday, September 6, 1997. And the finale, season 5, episode 10, Graduation Day, was premiered on Fox Kids on Saturday, September 20th, 1997. And if I was a kid running into the fall and just starting school and everything and knowing this was the last one, I'd be very sad, having watched it the past 5 years. So, Michelle, what happened in these 2 episodes?
Descent. The origin of Mr. Sinister is revealed as Dr. Xavier attempts to stop Essex before he goes too far. Graduation Day. On the verge of Magneto's final stand against humans, the X-Men request him to save a dying Professor X. What choice will he make?
All right. Thank you very much, Michelle. Chris, what are your first thoughts?
I forgot that we weren't recording last week, and I watched these so I could be recording last week, and I refuse to watch them again.
I may have cried during the finale.
Where did these stories come from?
Yay, we made it to the end. Woohoo! All right, that's what I was thinking when we went there. Okay, I think we really need to start with what Michelle said, like the stories. Where did they come from? Because I think the whole of season 5, having now watched it, I definitely understand everybody's frustration with it. But these last two was like, what? I almost can understand the last one because they were just trying to say goodbye sort of thing. But Descent? What?
Okay, I feel like I would have liked Descent a lot more if it had been like a 2 or 3-parter with an actual budget and at a completely different point in the show. Can I get the anachronisms out of the way real quick?
Go for it.
Okay. So, first of all, that famous picture of Charles Darwin that they based the appearance of Charles Darwin on here, he did not look like that in the 1850s. He grew the beard in 1862. He actually looked a lot more like Ancestor Xavier during this time period. Also, there's a part where they're walking in a museum and there's a T-Rex skeleton. And first of all, it was more of the T-Rex skeleton that we know, as opposed to when they tried to like break the bones to make it stand upright. But also, T-Rexes weren't discovered until 1902. I actually just read a really, really, really good book about it. Guinea pig, as a shorthand for experiments, was not popularized until 1922. Well, until the 1920s. The Statue of Liberty had just been unveiled. It was unveiled in 1886 and did not turn green until like 1906. And when Xavier is like, oh my God, these conditions are so terrible. Asylums were way worse at the time. If you can stomach it, look up Bedlam Asylum. There's a reason that Bedlam became slang for like absolute chaos. That said, Descent was a really good title because Charles Darwin actually, okay, Origin of the Species, yes, he was just talking about stuff and he just kind of hinted at his thoughts on human evolution in it. But in the 1870s, he wrote a book called The Descent of Man, which actually expounded on his, that he'd spent the last however many years thinking about all this, and he wrote that. So that actually made me laugh. And with regards to the child-friendly Jack the Ripper, there was, at first I was like, oh, this is just going to make me mad, isn't it? But when we see Jack at the end and he has like a package, I actually got kind of excited because the last murder of Mary Kelly, or the last confirmed murder, Mary Kelly, actually had organs missing.
So basically, the package could have been her organs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very gruesome, especially for a kid's show.
Incredibly.
Yeah, this episode, I mean, when Sinister was an actual threat and he was going after Jean Grey, and then we learned he's related to Lord Grey, I thought that was interesting. But all of a sudden, we're just doing this. Well, it's not even a flashback. It's just all of a sudden, here we are, 1888 London. And then in this past episode, we have a flashback within, I think, what was meant to be a flashback. Like, here's the origin, something. It's just from left field. And then the next one being about the government, and there's Genosha. And I know we had the secret government thing with, Guthrie before. Is Gyric's action connected to that? We don't know. But then we got this weird origin of Mr. Sinister in the middle when we don't really have Mr. Sinister at all really in this season, because we had something with Apocalypse, correct? With Cortez.
Yeah, that was like second or third episode.
Yeah. Like, what?
This episode just really seemed like they had a script sitting around and they had to use it and they had to make another episode to fit their episode count. And, oh, whatever, we already have it. Let's just throw this out and make it happen. Like, why? You could have just made Graduation Day, I don't know, actually have a graduation in it.
Yeah, it's kind of lost its meaning because the Xavier Mansion wasn't really a school in all this, right? It was just the X-Men going out and doing their stuff. And Graduation Day is like, what? And nobody actually takes over the team. There's no appointed leader. And we already know there's a leadership vacuum that different people have tried, whether it's Psyche or if it's Storm or whoever. And then out of nowhere, Psyche and Jean are back. I can't remember if they were, this is bad, but I can't remember if we talked about them in the last month or so, but out of nowhere, they're kind of back. It's like, okay, I don't get what's going on here other than they wanted to try to bring together as many story elements as they could. So you got the space in there with Leandra for Graduation Day here. You got the space thing in with Leandra. They've got Magneto in. You've got Genosha in, which has not really been explored too much in this series, but it's there. You even had Muir Island. You had, like, they touched on most of the storylines, maybe not all the villains, but most of the storylines and most of the main X-Men characters that brought back Morph. So I can kind of see it, but at the same time, it could have been done better. It was no all good things for Star Trek: The Next Generation.
So the original air date of Descent actually makes a little bit more sense. It was right after Old Soldiers, which is another flashback episode. That said, again, both of those really did feel like we have these scripts. Here's some interesting stuff from the comics that we didn't get to. You know, it is what it is, I guess.
I don't know when they were told that this was the last season either. Was it after season 4 and they said, okay, we're going to do one more, but we're only going to do 10 episodes and we're going to limit the budget severely? I know they lost Larry Houston, probably couldn't afford him at that point. So I could see how this whole thing fell apart. And it didn't have the massive fandom that it does today. I mean, there's a lot of kids that liked it, but there's a big business around the mutants and X-Men now. And I think the X-Men 97 series isn't going to suffer this fate by far because Disney and Marvel Studios knows too much about it. But back then I could just see them. This is how cartoons went. I did not watch Batman the Animated Series, so I don't know how that ended. I'm assuming that ended better than this.
If memory serves, yes. I didn't get to the last season on my last attempt at a rewatch.
So I guess if you're above some sort of threshold, you get all the money and you're able to bring everything home, but they weren't here. I mean, the animation was still crap. At least we got the good intro.
Okay, I found an article actually on the production history or the making of X-Men the Animated Series from Marvel.com. And I'm trying to find the information on the last season, but Old Soldiers was mentioned on this, and that's why I went, ooh. If I find anything about the history of season 5 and everything, I'll let you know, because now
Yeah, we weren't incredibly fond of Old Soldiers. It just seemed like a mashup to bring Captain America in on the series. At least that was my take on it. Michelle, Chris, if I'm off base, let me know.
No.
It was meh.
not enough Nazi punching.
That too. So Descent did have the origins of Sinister. So you had his mutant name because Sinister experiment. So that's how he got his name. And they were hinting at, we're going to go back and show you where all these mutants came from. That was kind of their back door that they were trying to do before the series ended. Okay, what are the origins of mutants? I didn't particularly care for that because I know that we've seen so many different types of that right now. But I guess in the 1997 time frame, this would have been okay to know.
feel like we've gone this far. You don't need it.
We've gotten all of that retconned.
Yeah.
I will say that one thing that I found really interesting, and it shows that, like, there was actually some thought put into the script. If you notice, every, I guess, proto-Morlock there had a surname that was, not your standard, English or something. It was, Irish and Hispanic and Russian. And those were all considered to be quote unquote lesser at the time, and therefore very acceptable targets for all sorts of horrible, horrible things back in the day. So yeah, it was a nice touch. And it was one of those things that was like, okay, there was actually some thought put into this. But again, no budget. Seems like it came out of nowhere. Animation was not great, which again ties back into no budget. It's one of those things that annoys me when you see the bones of what could have been something really good, and for whatever reason, it just didn't get there.
The one thing I will say about Descent is if you've never watched an episode of the show and the Descent is the only one you caught, that it would make sense to you somewhat. And Graduation Day, no. You need to have that background in order for anything in Graduation Day to make sense, which is okay because it's the series finale. But this is the one benefit I see of Descent. Although Descent is not representative of the rest of the series. It's definitely a one-off. And if you thought the rest of X-Men the Animated Series was going to be like Descent, you would be sadly mistaken.
One of the things I liked about Graduation Day is we get the resolution of the Magneto-Xavier bromance, because Magneto was given that choice, and Magneto's like, but wait, I'm finally right about humanity and I could go and lead the forces. I need to do that. And Scott and everything, they're just like, but isn't he your friend? Isn't he the one that's been by your side? And even he's just like, yes, my greatest enemy, my greatest friends, my biggest love. That part was left out. But he goes and he risked himself because, Jean Grey's like, look, when you tie yourself to him, and if it goes wrong, you could like be psychically blasted and killed and everything. And he's still like, let me do this because he's my best love friend. That it's just like, it reminded me of the Savage Love, Savage Garden, Savage Jungle, Savage Land, Savage Land. There we go. Savage Land.
No. They want to stand with them on a mountain. They want to bathe with them in the sea.
Yes.
I have shipped Xavier and Magneto since before I knew what shipping was. And they're just, whether platonically, romantically, whatever, these are two people who are they are essentially soulmates. And yeah, that whole Magneto, he's there, he's being proven right, and he's at the cusp of leading this mutant revolution. But it's like, your best friend is dying and you're his only hope. And he's like, I'll drop everything and go help. And that was beautiful to me. Also, how sad is it that when Gyrich was ranting at the beginning, I'm like, I think I heard that on the news the other day about not mutants, but once again, X-Men is not supposed to be a guidebook, but it's been sadly relevant about like so many marginalized groups, and it did kind of fuel my Magneto was right feels.
Michelle, you mentioned the Savage Land, Savage whatever. On our Twitter account this past week, we had a go back and forth with at Mr. Pericletes. He showed us the image of Savage Avengers number 10 that's coming out. And on the back of the image is a gray Hulk with antimaterium spikes and claws coming out. And he was saying that I have so many questions about that. And it's interesting because Hulk is impenetrable. How do you get the animanium into him? And somebody on our account said, what would happen if the Hulk ate Wolverine? And to respond, Mr. Periclesi just said, just another question. What would happen? Would that infuse the animanium into him or not? I have no idea. So I don't know how that's happening.
I don't think he's not Kirby. But like, okay, I'm looking at that cover right now. I mean, I guess they could do like Luke Cage and go in through like the eyeball or something.
Well, even the eye is impenetrable because it's bulletproof, right? I don't know.
What about his tonsils?
Yeah, got to take out the tonsils. Anyway, so when you said Savage, that's what I went back to. And of course, we had the whole season 2 arc in the Savage Land for X-Men the Animated Series. Okay, so we're not really enthralled with these 2 episodes. It is a farewell, but did you guys have fun in this watch through of X-Men the Animated Series? Lauren, what did you think? Did you have fun watching all these episodes again?
Yes. Again, like I said, I've been a huge X-Men fan since I was a kid. I watched the original run of the show all the way through, even season 5. Whenever I do a watch through, I never make it through season 5. Like I always kind of stall out around season 3. But it took me back to childhood. As an adult, as somebody who writes and voice acts now, it's been really interesting going back and looking at it from those points of views. You know, just kind of, you always see things on a rewatch that you never saw before, and then add 20 years to that. It's still one of my favorite shows. It was an incredibly formative show, and I really wish the budget hadn't been cut so much in season 5. I really, really do.
Michelle, what'd you think about rewatching it?
Amazing. I'm glad we got the chance to do so. Because I moved around and because of the availability of certain TV channels, I never got to watch it all the way through. I couldn't watch the last 2 seasons for logistical reasons. So being able to have the opportunity, one of the best parts of having streaming services is like when I was younger in the beginning of the internet, I didn't have access to a lot of media. And one of the upsides of having something like Disney Plus is that they can go into the vault and bring us X-Men 92. Of course, the downside is that anything new is competing with everything that's ever existed. But just able to go and rewatch, having it there for other people, younger people to discover,
older people,
by scrolling through Disney Plus. You got to hunt for it. I don't know about you, but I first had to hunt for it on Disney Plus in order to find it. But I was so glad that I got to watch it all the way through.
I don't know if it's because I've been watching that and some other, older stuff, but yesterday on my Disney Plus, it was like something is like classic Marvel animated or something like that. It was, and they had like that and X-Men Evolution and Spider-Man, and it's like,
yes,
and Wolverine and the X-Men.
Yes, once you watch certain things over and over again, the algorithm does make certain things. But when you haven't done that yet, you have to go find it. At least I did. I don't know. What about you, Chris?
I'd watched this through once. Like when I was growing up, I didn't watch it because I was just busy most Saturday mornings playing soccer or something. So in college, we magically got access to it and watched it. And I hadn't seen it since then. And this time I got to actually sit there, watch it with Kaylee. She watched probably 95% of the episodes with me. And it not only brought back the nostalgia for that era of cartoons, it brought back the nostalgia of having to wait, because we would consistently wait till Thursday or Friday night to watch them. So it was almost like that was when it was airing. And I knew I had that to look forward to all week. And overall, I'm really glad we did it. I knew this season 5 was coming, and I still don't regret any second. But I also am weird and like to finish things.
I think I'll remember the multi-parters, the good multi-parters, most of all from the series. I'm talking about the Days of Future Past, the Phoenix Saga, the Dark Phoenix Saga. I think those will be kind of my memorable moments from this. And if I had to sift through the bad stuff to get through that, I think it's all been worth it. These are 20-minute episodes, 22-minute episodes. No big deal. It's been fun watching them and talking about it. So that's my take on watching it for the first time. Because literally, I did not watch this completely for the first time until last night. This is the first time I've ever watched all the way through. First time I've ever watched all of it. Like Michelle, I was not in a place where I could see this when I was growing up. And so I never watched it. And people that I talked to were like, it's my favorite thing ever. My favorite cartoons growing up were more like Robotech and Star Blazers, space-based saga stuff. But I would have gotten into this if I would have had access to it in the 90s, but I didn't. So
I'm really, really glad that I got to talk this with y'all, even if I wasn't here as much as I wanted to be, because like I said, this was an absolutely formative. If you go back and you're like, the things that formed Lauren and my ethos and everything like that, it's this and Star Wars. And I'm so, so glad that I got to share this with you all.
not only did we get to watch it, but we got an amazing interview out of it as well.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Chris, how did you like talking to him twice?
You say that like it's never going to happen again. It was fun. You know, Eric and Julia are great people, and getting to talk to them about something that they obviously love and they know that their fans love, and they know how important it is to everybody, that you can just see that love coming from everywhere. And I know they're not directly making 97, but knowing that they have at least a small finger on it makes me think that there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, not only Eric and Julia Wald, but Larry Houston has been involved. A lot of the original production team has been brought in as at least consultants. At least, hey, we're not going to push you aside. Come on in, see what we've got going on, and maybe let us know what you were thinking back in the day. If you could have done the series in the 1990s the way we can do it today, what would you have done differently? All those conversations. So, yeah. Anything you guys got left on the table to talk about X-Men the 97? We won't talk about it again or X-Men the Animated Series 92. We won't talk about it again until 97. Michelle?
Again, Lauren touched on it, but rewatching it, it was scary about how many things were relevant to today, not only about the political things, but quarantine and, mass hysteria and people and such. And it's still the best adaptation of the Phoenix Saga than any Hollywood movie has done. Like, there it is.
To date.
No live, to date.
Yeah.
No live or animated has done the Phoenix Saga that way.
There have been 2 attempts, and
both failed.
no, this is still just the absolute king.
And talking about real life thing, we even had that in the finale episode with the mutant containment bill. They were trying to build up the confrontation, all the confrontations that the mutants were having with normal society. And normal's not a good word to use there. Not even mainstream. How with non-mutant society, with muggles? I don't know.
Baseline. I think baseline is what gets used.
Okay, that's not derogatory.
Or Homo sapiens and Homo superior.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Anyway, they had that in there. So anyway, Chris,
I can't believe it took me 5 seasons to figure this out. But did you catch that little knowledge drop in Graduation Day? Professor X is a mutant.
He looks just like us.
He's only been hanging out with the mutants the entire time, running the school that they're in, doing everything, like speaking for their rights and stuff. I can't believe I never thought he was a mutant.
Yeah, if you take away one thing from this series, let it be to empathize and stick up for marginalized people.
Well pointed out. I think we're just going to end it there. So next time we're going to be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. I know for a fact Lauren has seen it already. Michelle, have you seen it already?
No.
No, and no, I haven't seen it already, and I'm guessing Chris has not seen it already. So we're looking forward to see that this week and then talk about it next weekend on the show and talk about the kickoff for the MCU Phase 5. Meantime, we got some fun news to go talk about, and that's what we're going to do right now.
Well, we have a new Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer. This trailer is more emotional than the others. An official trailer for the third Guardians of the Galaxy film was released during Superbowl
52.
52. Oh my goodness. I blanked on my Roman numerals. On February 12th and featured new footage of the team as they prepare for quote unquote one last ride in what will be their final entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The trailer shows Will Poulter's Adam Warlock, Rocket Raccoon's origin story, including his girlfriend Lila, Zoe Saldana's Gamora, and more. Written and directed by James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will be the last appearance from this group of Guardians in the MCU.
I just want to say that's my fault. That's my bad. It's Super Bowl 57. It is not Michelle's. I read the numerals wrong, just like Michelle was about to. So it's 57, not 52.
Okay, glad.
So it was kind of funny. Right before the Super Bowl, at our little get-together, me, my spouse, my best friend, we had Voyage of the Dawn Treader on, which is Will Poulter's, one of his like earliest roles, if not his earliest role. I'd have to check IMDb. But you have, this little obnoxious kid, and then like, I don't know, 20 minutes later, whenever it was the teaser for the trailer, really, because the actual trailer is like 2 minutes long. When it came out, it's like, man, he went from being Eustace Scrub to Adam Warlock. I mean, that is a glow up.
So the season 3 of Ted Lasso is coming out on March 15th, and the girls were rewatching season 1, season 2 of Ted Lasso. And then like in the middle of season 2, one of them said, wait a minute, that's Hercules. Like, yeah, that's Hercules. You're just figuring out that now. Yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah. So you get to see this cross between other amazing IPs in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including little podunk kids that turn up to be stacking people.
Yeah, kids who, before this, the two things that I really knew him from, other than Voyage of the Dawn Treader, were that We're the Millers, mostly that GIF, the You Guys Got Paid, that one, and Midsummer, which is one of my favorite movies, and he has a very ignoble end in that one. So it's been cool watching his career. And then, of course, we get Baby Rocket, which makes me just, and Lila. I'm so excited for Lila. Just, yes. Also more Nebula and Mantis. So I'm here for my girls.
The interaction between the two as Chris Pratt was discovering what striking eyes Nebula had. It's kind of fun. I'm really looking forward to this because I've really enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy on screen. I know we've had some problems with Star-Lord's portrayal in the last couple of things because he's lost his love and everything. And we think that's been affecting how he's been portrayed on screen. I'm going to be sad to see him go. We know this is not going to end happy. We know this is their last ride. They're not coming back. Maybe one or two will come back, but we don't know who's going to make it through. So it'll be fun watching it, but I'm not really psyched about the end. As long as they stick the landing, it'll be a good conclusion, but we already know it's not going to end happy. They're all not making it out of it.
Well, I do have a new friend who's very happy to see it. You'll never guess who it is.
Spider-Gwen?
Spider-Gwen.
No.
Groot.
Oh,
Baby Groot. Is that Baby Groot or Teenage Groot?
No, this is Baby Groot.
Yeah.
Baby Groot. So I watch wrestling. What a surprise. And when I was watching AEW Rampage yesterday, there was somebody with a sign in the audience. First off, on one side, it said, Netflix, buy the Snyderverse, something like that. And then on the other side of the sign, when he held it up, it said, James Gunn sucks. And I'm like, he does not. You have bad opinions.
I'm actually looking forward to the DC universe as James Gunn takes over it because the dude can tell a story.
I need to finish watching Peacemaker. Speaking of wrestlers.
Yeah, I've never started that. But if James Gunn can tell a good story in the DC universe, I'm all in. I'm out until I see the first thing that James Gunn has had hand in beyond Suicide Squad. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll see what happens.
Bring in Jess.
We're going to move on to the next news story, and it is about the Marvels. It was originally supposed to premiere on like July, and I know there was some social media backlash that there was not any trailers or any mention of it at all at the Super Bowl because everybody was expecting it, especially with the July release. Well, there might be a little reason for that because it has been delayed from July to November. So it was announced alongside a brand new teaser poster, which is amazing, by the way, with Photon and Ms. Marvel. And The Marvels is now scheduled to open in theaters on November 10th. This is the 5th release date for The Marvels now. It was originally scheduled to open back in July 2022. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the film was delayed to November of 2022, then February 2023. Marvel Studios had previously had the film set to open on July 28th. There was no reason given by Marvel Studios for the film's delay. However, a recent report has claimed that Marvel is looking at having more breathing room between MCU projects to prevent audience fatigue, as well as to allow the creative teams more time in post-production. The report mentions that Disney Plus series Echo and Ironheart are no longer guaranteed to debut in 2023 because of these changes, and that the development on other projects like the rumored Nova series will slow down. However, the insiders did not mention if the MCU films would be affected by this decision, so it is impossible to say if this is the reason for the Marvel's delay until Marvel Studios confirms the report, which it has yet to do at the time of the writing of the article, which was on CBR.com that we pulled this from. Guys, I'm not surprised about this. We knew things were going to start slowing down. I think we all really started to lament things after the She-Hulk finale. I mean, the way that ended, She-Hulk in itself was fun, but the way it ended was just terrible. So I think we've been seeing a slow decline in the quality of the projects as things have progressed on. The pandemic might have had an issue to it, but I think at the rate that they were trying to churn out product, and I think, this is just my opinion, in order to drive subscriptions to Disney Plus, it has been detrimental to the quality of the project. So I'm glad that they're slowing things down. I think having better quality projects will keep people in Disney Plus more rather than like Netflix, where people are like, well, why am I in Netflix right now? I'm just going to get rid of it because there's nothing there that I'm watching. If you have constant hits on Disney Plus, like we'll just go to HBO. Like a lot of people are watching The Last of Us right now. I haven't seen an episode yet, but a lot of people are talking about that. Or over on Amazon Prime with the Lord of the Rings prequel, or, you know, those big budget, big effects, big storyline stuff. You look at Disney Plus and you really don't see that. You don't see a foundation like over on Apple TV Plus that's over here on Disney Plus. So I just hope that taking more time gives us more of those epic series.
Anybody who plays a lot of AAA video games knows that crunch is bad. Time crunch leads to incomplete projects being released and having to scrap ideas and just all sorts of things. My philosophy with movies is the same as with games. Give it as much time as it needs, release a good product, and just, yeah, I understand that there's all these business decisions and stuff, but from a creative and an audience standpoint, give things time to breathe. Give things the time they need to actually be finished. And pay your people. I don't know.
There's a reason why you don't get innovations in Madden every year, and it's because they're trying to pop it out so quickly.
There's that saying, producers, studios want things fast, cheap, and good, but you really can't get all three. You either get fast and cheap, fast and good, cheap and good. All three really just can't happen. Just let things be done. Like Lauren said, I'm tired of games coming out. And, oh, by the way, here's a patch a month later that is the rest of the game. It's just, you could have waited a couple more months to give us the actual game. So if they keep pumping out just semi-okay stuff, people are just going to eventually not want to see anything Marvel.
There is a way that you can sequentially release content that makes sense. And I don't think anybody's ever done it correctly, but there is a way. I'll give you the example. I podcasted on a sci-fi series called Defiance. It had an associated game with it. Series was pretty good. It was sci-fi pretty good. It wasn't water cooler good. I mean, you might argue that it might have been had it had more pull or more advertisement, or NBC Universal knew what they were doing about it. But it had this game with it. And what they did is they sequentially released content as it was changing in the show. There were a couple of instances with stuff from the game also make it into the show. So if you can do that well, I could see sequentially releasing game content as you go on. But nobody's done that correctly. Nobody's done a game and a TV series that are working in parallel and you're intertwining the story well. They did it on Defiance. I'll say they did it, successfully did it, but they didn't do it well. And you can do it well. I mean, the game wasn't all that great to begin with, but they could have meshed. They did mesh it well. It's just the gameplay wasn't great and the series wasn't water cooler style. If you could get something that was bang out, like Marvel does video games and they do series, you could do something epic even in the films back and forth between video games and intertwine that story. I think that's a missing market. I know they try to do it, but it's two separate entities. If they could bring it together, then it'd be better. That's just my opinion.
But you hit the key there. You got to have a good game. It's like a good base game there. And we give games crap a lot for having those day one patches. Once the movie comes out, it's out.
Unless it's Cats, where it had like the week one patch to remove the human hands.
All right. Hey, Lauren, what else we got going on in the MCU?
All right. So we have an article that is mostly about how Kang became Marvel's next supervillain and why Phase 4 sets it all up. So this was an interview with Stephen Broussard, who is a producer on a lot of more recent stuff on Gizmodo.com. And then while speaking to IO9, Broussard said that he thought of one of Phase 4's meta-narratives centered on new characters and mantles being taken up by the latest heroes. If you look at like Cassie Lang in Quantumania getting a suit, and Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, new characters being introduced like Jack in Werewolf by Night. After these first 10 years of Marvel storytelling, torches are being passed, like with Robert Downey Jr. no longer being on the table and stuff like that. So it was kind of a new generation stepping to the forefront, which again has always happened in the comics. We'll talk about it more when we talk Quantumania, but I'm very excited for Kang. He's always been, there in the comics. When I got back into reading comics, Young Avengers was one of the first things that I picked up that wasn't Ultimate Marvel. And Kang is a big part of their origin story. So I'm very, very excited. And Jonathan Majors is amazing.
Yeah, we'll have to talk after next week about possibilities with Jonathan returning to Loki season 2 or not. I know there's been some articles on that, but until we see Ant-Man, I don't want to speculate on that whole thing.
All I'm going to say is, again, stay for the shawarma.
All right. Chris, what else we got?
We also had the release of another cartoon. Maybe it's something we'll talk about here. We still have to talk about that. But Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur has released its first episode online for free. You can catch it on YouTube if you're not on Disney Plus, so you can see if it's something that you like. The premiere is titled Moon Girl Landing. It was released on YouTube the same day it was aired on Disney Plus, or on the Disney Channel. I haven't seen it yet, but one of my friends, who is also basically me, says that it is one of the best things he's said or seen in a long time. This show is following Lunella Lafayette, a 13-year-old super genius who is living in Manhattan, whose portal experiment accidentally summons a cherry red Tyrannosaurus Rex. Encouraged by her new friend and manager Casey, Lunella dons a costume and an arsenal of homemade gadgets to protect the Lower East Side alongside the Beast as the duo Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. However, when the two come across a genuine supervillain in the form of the electricity-powered Aftershock, Lunella fears she may not actually have what it takes to be a hero. So we're going to have another one of those heroes discovering who they are, discovering that they're good enough stories, which I'm all for, because I always know people, mostly me, who needs to hear that. And the animation style here, again, I've just seen stills, but my friend, I know Michelle was talking about it with us beforehand, this is going to be something different, and I am all for that. And I watch a lot of anime, so I'm not worried about weird animation styles.
It has an amazing cast, like Lawrence Fishburne, who was also kind of responsible for bringing it to the screen. You have Alfre Woodard showing up again. You have India Moore, Asia Kate Dillon, Alison Brie, Gary Anthony Williams, Sashir Zamata. It's a fantastic cast, and I'm very excited. And once I'm done editing this chapter that I'm working on for my current project, I'm going to be watching the first episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the first episode, see if I like it or not. We'll just see how that goes. And not everything is going to apply to everybody in the Marvel Studios portion of Disney Plus, but I think a large majority will. And I'm willing to try out anything. So we'll see how this goes. The storyline in itself looks pretty cool. So I'm interested in that. All right. That brings us to the end of today's news. Chris, what do we got today?
I think we just need to get ourselves around the table and try to figure out how we're going to save our friend from space diseases.
Space diseases are the worst. Just about every Star Trek episode out there is some sort of space disease to avoid.
Sometimes they're about Captain Kirk kissing.
Not as often as you would think, really, though.
And getting a disease from it.
Space STDs.
Yeah, space transmitted diseases instead of
There
sexual.
you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I just liked how they were, I know we didn't talk about it, but Beast was like, I can't cure him. We must call the Shi'ar. Anyone got Leandra's number? Do you have her number? No. Do you have her number? It's like Storm not leaving her number to the Warlocks. It's like, it's important to give your phone numbers to people.
Communication is important.
It's actually one of the first things that I do when I get on a podcast with other people for any length of time. I'm like, okay, what's your phone number? Because I know I'm going to have to contact you at some time about something. And I just had to do that because I temporarily joined the cast over there, or the crew over there on the Strange New Worlds fan cast talking about Picard season 3. And I'm doing it as a favor. And it's been fun, sort of, kind of. I've expected way too much from it, but once I dialed my expectations back, it's been fun. And 2 episodes are out. I think another 8. It's got all the original series cast in it from the Next Generation. So really looking forward to the end of that. But anyway, phone numbers. It's very key. It's like, even at work, like you go into a new office and at some point in time, you're going to need to contact somebody at night about like the next day, like you're feeling sick and you have to call in or whatever. You need to have their phone number or to at least text them, right? So yeah, Leandra, you need to get on that. All right. It's been fun. It's been amazing. And I can't wait to get on to the Ant-Man. And then later on this year, hopefully X-Men 97. If you are listening to this and you have had our coverage of X-Men 92 the entire last year, let us know how you liked it. Let us know how you like the series. We'd really like to hear from you.
So thank you to everybody who listens. Thank you to everybody who's come along with us on this X-Men the Animated Series journey. Like I said, it is a very important show to me. I'm so glad to have y'all along. You can find everywhere that I'm at professionally at my website, lwsalinas.com. I particularly encourage you to check me out on Audible. I have a bunch of audiobooks there. And you can find me yelling about wrestling mostly on Twitter at Sithwitch, SITHWITCH.
We always appreciate that you take time out of your busy day to listen to us. We all know how much content is out there. And the fact that you pick us, warms our hearts. You can find me on Twitter at @Shell_game, but I'm still a bit hibernating right about now because of life stuff. And I, of course, want to thank my co-host, and I really want to thank Chris for taking the idea of doing the previously on that was done in the earlier seasons of X-Men. They stopped doing it, but the fact that, Chris, you kept putting in all that extra time to entertain us for that 90 seconds consistently. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to thank all of you for letting me do that, because they were a lot of fun to put together. And eventually, I've already gotten the files from SP, but they will all be online by themselves. You'll just have to go to my YouTube channel to see it, because I have access to that one. But if you want to hear other things from me, you can head on over to Play Comics, where I know for a fact, because it is already done and queued up, the next episode to come out is looking at North and South for the regular Nintendo, which surprisingly is about a comic. Wow.
Interesting. I will say, if you have anything that you want to talk about to any of us, you can find us on our Discord server. That's gonnageek.com/Discord. You can find us there. And if you happen to be a podcaster, you might want to check out my show, which I have brought back after a few weeks off. It's called Better Podcasting Chats with SP. It's with other hobby podcasters. Chris has been on it, and it's been fun so far. Just this last week, I interviewed Alexander Dahl from the Manifest Brutality podcast, and he interviews underground musicians. And he was talking all about all of the things behind the scenes when you're scheduling musicians, as well as basically resiliency when it comes to podcasting. So you can check that out over at betterpodcasting.com. Well, until next time, I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Fumbles.
I'm Agent Dribbles.
And I'm Agent Chris for now.
Still looking for a nickname for you, Chris.
Agent Time Loops.
How about Agent Previously On?
That works for me.
All right. See everybody next time. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2013 through 2023.